is Bobi Wine. Please. Please give him a warm Lagos welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my sister, and my respect and love to the fellow panelists. Friends, I'm very, very glad to be here today. My name is Chagulanyi Sentamo. For the record, Bobi Wine is just a nickname. Many times, I go back to the time when I adopted the name Bobi Wine, because Bobby comes from Robert. Robert is my Christian name. I honestly up to now don't know what Robert means, but that's my name. And it changed from Robert to Bob. Well, I knew that Bob and Robert were the same, but Bob was fancier, because when I was growing up, after learning that Robert means Bob, I chose Bob because Bob Marley was Robert as well. That name I got from my mother. I was named in 1982 when I was born, after one then great African revolutionary called Robert Mugabe. Yeah. When I was at school, starting music, it was more or less a culture for everybody to have a nickname. And because Bob was fancier than Robert, and Bobby was even more fancier than Bob, because Bobby Brown was a fancy artist then. I opted for Bobby. I only added the wine because I believed that I was getting better with age, and therefore I ended up being called Bobby. I still feel the regret, because if I knew that I would grow up to be a proud African, I would probably choose a nickname that sounds more African. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my first time to come to Nigeria. Physically, my soul and heart has always been in Nigeria. My thoughts and beliefs, and indeed confidence, has been in a great way shaped by what I learned from Nigeria. I grew up reading books from the great Chinua Achebe, from the great Kelechi Amadi, but most importantly from Professor Wole Soyinka, who has brought me. And not only me, ladies and gentlemen, but my generation in Uganda and in East Africa has been shaped by the confidence and vibe that we get from Nigeria. You guys should clap for yourselves. Nigerians have always given us confidence. They, according to me, are the most confident Africans. They're so proud to be Africans. And if I was speaking to you back in the day before these borders were drawn in our beautiful continent, I would be confident enough to claim that I'm a Nigerian too. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I could not be prouder for the reason that brings me to Nigeria. We are here to celebrate the life and times of a great African son, Fela Kuti. And ladies and gentlemen, I probably would have come to Nigeria as an artist or as an activist for any other reason, but to see that we are here to celebrate a man that touched me personally, and I believe touched thousands, if not millions of Africans, is a great thing. Fela Kuti was not known to me in my initial time. Like any other African youth delving into art, yeah, I was greatly inspired by the South African music, especially in the times before South Africa was finally free. Those struggle songs of Chico, of Yvonne Chaka Chaka, of Lucky Dube, and all those revolutionary artists. But there's this one other guy from Nigeria that I got to learn about differently. For starters, I come from the ghetto. I come from the biggest slum in Kampala, Uganda, called Kamwokya. Although I had the rare opportunity, unlike many of the people that I grew up with, to go to school and get a basic education, I was another common artist. And indeed, when I became an artist, like many other artists, my desire was to sing about the fancy things. So my music started out as, you know, building ghetto confidence. This ghetto is bigger than that ghetto. Oh, we're stronger, we can win that group in a fight. Oh, we are singing about the booty of the girls, and we're singing about the parties and so on and so forth. And as we grew up, we noticed, or I personally noticed, that indeed we were teachers, we were influencers. I noticed that so many young men and women were influenced in fancy life, into alcohol, into hard drugs, and many other things. It was influence. It came to a time when corporate companies were indeed paying us to just pose with their drinks, because that is the kind of influence we had with the youth. If I posed with a Guinness or with a Nile special beer, the company would be sure that the generation is going to, you know, consume that, and that was the case. We were teachers, very busy teaching our generation nonsense. Like I said, it's either by mistake or deliberate that artists or activists that tend to teach what is not beneficial for the status quo are not promoted. I did not learn about Fela Kuti from mainstream media. I never watched any of his videos on national TV, and I never heard his music on national radio. It is just a friend that told me about Fela Kuti, and when I went on researching about him, it blew my mind, ladies and gentlemen. So 10 years ago, I personally took a decision to change the genre of my music from entertainment to edutainment. We called it edutainment, one, because music was a very influential and effective mode of communication. But most importantly, we knew that that was the easiest way to send messages to those people that, one, did not get the rare opportunity of going to school. And even those that went to school, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how it is here, but back home and in many parts of Africa that I've gone to, education is not a very entertaining thing. And many young men and women are actually forced to learn the things they learn at school. So when I changed my music, initially it was talking about the social issues, the poverty, the behavior change, guiding fellow youth against the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And it's slowly by slowly that I found the need to talk about leadership. And again, coming back to Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, there's one interview that I read when the great Chinua Achebe was asked what the problem of Nigeria was back in the 80s. He said, the problem of Nigeria are not the people, it's not the lakes or rivers, it's not the weather, it is the leadership. It got into me, and I probed deeper into the leadership that we were having. And indeed, that question was alive, that the answer was alive, and it continues to be alive where I come from, in particular, in Uganda. The leadership. So we started talking about the leadership and challenging the leadership, talking about things that matter. I've been discussing with many of my friends back home, and indeed here, that Fela is a man that lived before his time. I wish we had a Fela today, or many other Felas today, because this is a guy that lived when there was no social media, when there was no internet, in a time where it was very, very, very easy to silence a strong critical voice like Fela. Only God knows the beatings that he took, how many times he was incarcerated, but ultimately he stood and spoke for what he believed in. So today here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Personally, after taking that decision of stopping to teach nonsense and being able to teach some sense wherever I could, as expected, in our time with the benefits of internet, social media, and the big youth bulge that we have in Africa, there was wide communication. We benefited from that. Needless to say, the powers that be were not asleep to that. As I speak now, there's been so many benefits to me and those that think like me, having emulated Fela. But yes, many, many disadvantages as well. As we speak today, my music is banned in my country. My concerts are abolished in my country. And yes, my public appearances are abolished in my country. We cannot meet, I cannot be able to address people in my own country as I'm doing here. Why? Because I'm an artist that is using music to communicate